Welcome back, boys and some girls. Playing Foundation was very fun even in early access. Now that it's 1.0, I actually wanted to make a full review of the game because I haven't done any review of the game previously. I played 100 hours of the game. There are some good and some bad. Let's begin the review. The subject in the review will be So long story short, the game has no story. You kind of make your own story by the way you build and the location of your kingdom and how you decide to progress the evolution of the skill tree. The game is very repeating, which is fine because the game loop is very fun. Problems do start to arise as you increase the size of your kingdom. The reason why is because transporting is very limited with specific functions, so as size increases, spreading resources become very problematic, mostly with food. Gameplay is mostly a top-down clicker that has you placing down buildings and drawing areas that allow NPCs to build their own houses. Drawing areas is what makes Foundation different from other city builders. In the game you will build systems that produce food and goods to sell to your own citizens, and you will manage every little detail. And sometimes you will feel like you're even missing some more details due to the game spoiling you with so many options. On your first playthrough, if you intend to finish it, you will reach a point where you realize a lot of things that will force you to either restart your playthrough or make a very big overhaul that will take a lot of time and micromanagement. For my time playing, I sensed that the devs meant for you to make small cities that each have everything inside of them: farms, lumberjacks, stonemasons, everything. This makes things seem a bit more player-made and not all square and industrialized. It works out fine when you need to have 2 farms for bread and 2 hunters for boar meat, but if you plan to reach around 1000 population or more, then you will run into a wall around 300 to 500 population, maybe a bit less. The wall will be a cycle that slowly suffocates you and eventually kind of soft-lock you from expanding even more. I'll explain. So you reach a certain point where you have a bit of a mess everywhere with some farms over here, a few hunters over there. Maybe you even start producing some goods like shirts and common wares, and you wish to start promoting your citizens or unlocking higher tier resources to unlock new features. It seems kind of like a normal unlock rate considering how fast you unlock things until that point. However, if you want to expand to something new, this means you will need more population and higher rank population to actually produce things efficiently. But more people actually means you need more food, and higher ranks means you need goods that are already been made to sell to your higher ranks. You also need space, which costs gold over time as well as gold up front. To make gold, you need to trade with other nations and tax your people. But to sell more and tax more, you need more people and more production. And for people in production, you need space, gold, and breeding room in your resources to house more people. And if you play with the flow, or what seems to be the intended way, you will very quickly think that the game is done and you kind of reach the end without even playing with the high tier stuff. What seems to be the way to go is to make a giant baseline of low tier resources and almost play like an evolution game where you already have a giant kingdom built, but the kingdom doesn't really have any high tier resources to play with, and after you have the space, the gold and the resources, you can start to rearrange everything in your kingdom and unlock new features. With all of that being said, moment to moment is very fun. It's a chill game where you don't really need to constantly be looking on the screen and maximizing your movement or something similar. You can slow down time, you can even pause the game to give you time to do whatever, and when you get into a more stable state of your kingdom, you can even leave the game running on XXX speed and just go do whatever. Most of the gameplay will be you placing down a few buildings and assigning some people to certain jobs, then just waiting for things to finish. It's a long game. In between, you will follow up on bottlenecks and see where and what can or is a problem in your system. I'm still finding out new things even after 100 hours that I didn't know before. Most of my troubles were actually moving resources from place to place. Things like iron and coal and wood are not much of a problem because you can just assign one storage to become the master storage for a certain type of resources, actually allowing you to pull things in one place and making a mega factory. But food needs to be spread, not necessarily evenly, so you can't do the same thing. You are left with food problems as you increase in size. For your population, you have 3 ranks. From low to high, it's serfs, commoners, and then citizens. As the ranks increases, you actually need more resources to satisfy the happiness of the NPC, as well as housing, different food, different goods, luxury stuff. But thankfully, when you just start out, there are some needs that you won't get penalized for until the NPC actually get a taste for it for the very first time, reinforcing the need for a very big baseline before you actually start. There are a total of 48 items to balance out by yourself. Almost all of them has different gathering, processing and crafting buildings, giving you a lot of playtime full of things to do. Your stat page is called the Royal Book. Inside of it, you will be able to see dry stats, as well as change or initiate trade with other kingdoms, as well as adjust your taxes for your citizens. Be careful though, because if you play other games, gold comes just into your wallet magically. Here it's not. You have to physically collect it with the tax office that actually employs people to go grab it from buildings around the map. Even if you don't grab the gold, you get the tax happiness penalty, so just so you know that. It's a very complex system, but with a steep but steady learning curve. I really should rename this section to vibes or feels, because I think visuals don't really represent what I'm trying to describe in these sections of a review. The game is an obviously chill game. There is no rush, nobody's coming to attack you, even when things are bad and you just doing stuff very not good, then you don't get punished for it very hard. You don't have flashing lights in your face. It's all very relaxing with very nice calming music that for some reason has downtime. I would really like to see it as a constant background thing. It really helps sell the whole calming situation. The visuals themselves are not insane, and NPCs always look like they just smoked in on their parents. The animations are nice. Every station has a decent set of animation relating to their job that makes everything feels more alive. Yes, graphics wise it's not amazing, textures are pretty crappy when you zoom in on them, but one, you mostly are not zoomed in, and two, I assume they did it for performance, because at around 500 population, the game starts freezing when autosaving. Performance is kind of what I expected from this kind of games. As you scale up, it becomes more and more problematic. I had one crash and the freezes I talked about during autosaves. Beside those, I saw an overall drop in frames as my kingdom increases. Right when I started the save, I was at around 70 to 80 FPS maybe. Currently I'm sitting on 40 FPS, but it does change depending on where I'm looking at. Aside from that, whenever you draw the city walls, you actually jump into 30 FPS and lock for 30 FPS for some strange reason, and then you jump right back up the second you finish drawing the walls. It's kind of strange, but I just needed you to know that. Aside from that, pretty smooth experience. The game costs roughly $28 at a 25% discount they have right now, somewhere until mid-February, don't remember when exactly, and it's about $37 without the discount. All of the amounts and all the numbers is transferred for my currency, so it's rough estimations. I don't know exactly how much you will pay for it. Besides that, they also have a DLC going for $7 that has a soundtrack and some dragon statues. In my opinion, totally not worth it. The game has enough details in the base game, but if you want to help the devs, go ahead, not gonna stop you. Aside from that, there is no other real money sinks options. Foundation is a long game that needs more explanations and more stats. It's a very complex game that requires specific math to calculate how much you need of each buildings to maximize your profits. However, there is no real stats for many buildings. What I mean is, when you hover over, for example, the wheat farm, it says it produces wheat. It doesn't give you the amount. Same for milk or other buildings that you actually need to draw an area for. The reason it is this way, I assume I have two reasons for. Number one, more mess makes things look to be more player made, so it goes with what I think is the general thought of the devs. Number two, you actually have to draw how big you want the farm to be, so the game can't really give you a stat before you actually draw it. So my recommendation is pretty simple. After you draw the area, just let the game show us how much of the resource will be produced in the area that has been drawn. This also has to consider the amount of workers and the efficiency. I think you should just do it at max workers and recommended efficiency, because NPCs also have to be within certain ranks to actually be the most efficient at certain jobs. Meaning, if you need a commoner to do a job but you have a serf doing it, then you lose about 50% of what could have been made, and it becomes worse as the rank increases into citizen. There are a few small problems that also hurts the flow of the game and your future plans. Things like gold over times that shows near a treasury isn't very reliable, and it changes very drastically. NPCs that can't decide where they want to live even when they have a house, but it's just a little bit farther than they need, or maybe they're programmed to. Or notifications that shows that you're missing something, but when you click on them it shows a completely fine NPC with all their needs met. Small things like that. Besides those, the game could do with some improvements, like allowing citizens to improve their own house density straight to the 3rd rank, and not having them build a 2nd tier, then destroy it, then build a 3rd tier. It's simply a waste of time. If the needs are met, just build the highest tier available. Another simple solution to the housing problem can be a very simple settling button that everybody just does like a shuffle. Everybody just leave their home and goes to the house that is closest to their own workplace, as well as fits the ranks, because as I said, higher tier people need higher tier stuff, also higher tier houses. So you want all the commoners in commoner houses, all the citizens in citizen houses, and all the serfs in serf houses. You don't want to mix because then you waste space. One last suggestion is to simply make the reforestation a general brush like all the other brushes, and not building specific like the farms, because it creates a mess of blue on your screen, just leaves you wondering what buildings cover what. Overall, a very fun, cozy game that needs some small improvement to the pace and the logic of the game to allow for a more smoother gameplay and easier time managing hundreds of building. Really had a good time playing this game. It's an 8 out of 10 for me. I might do a follow-up on the game depending if I unlock everything there is to, because it gets, as I said, a bit more repeating at the end and a bit harder, so it takes much longer to actually unlock everything. But that's gonna be it. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, thank you. If you didn't, let me know why, so I can improve. And besides that, keep us safe. See you next one. Bye bye.